Colin Beecham.
Thank you. So I remember about 2 years ago having a conversation with my friend Cameron. We were talking about how cool it would be to put on an event where you have all the local college bands come together and play for charity. And we both love live music, so this was something that we were both really passionate about. But about 3 weeks after that conversation, Cameron Fearon passed away on August 17th, 2018 after a long battle against melanoma. And one thing that a lot of us will never forget about Cameron was his attitude and his outlook on life. He would never let his situation or his circumstances bring him or anybody else down. And it was a type of mindset that we all looked up to. So after Cameron's funeral, a few of us decided to get together and we wanted to figure out how to put on this very event. Except this time it was going to be for Cameron. So 1 month after our friend passed away, we officially founded the nonprofit organization Jam for Cam. And this left us with 50 days to plan for our very first event. And after those 50 days went by, our team was able to raise $77,000 for our 3 charities and sold over 6,500 tickets to our event before even opening the gates. And we were honored to be a part of such an incredible event to honor Cameron and his family and have all of our friends together. But this event really left us knowing that we had something that could really make an impact on our community. So fast forward about 6 months to May of this year. This is when we began the planning process for our second event, which we just had recently on October 11th. And after hundreds of hours of planning and organization and meetings and emails and all the tasks that go into creating an event like this, I'm excited to officially announce our team was able to raise $120,000 for our 3 charities, bringing our organization just under $200,000 raised in our first full year of operation. And we had over 9,000 people come to Jam for Cam this year, with students from over 25 different universities, making Jam for Cam the largest attended student-led philanthropy event in the history of UGA. Now, throughout this whole process, I've really been fortunate to have learned so much information about nonprofits and how we perceive donations and all the tasks that go into creating an organization like this. But throughout this process, I really began to question if the way that we view these organizations is really the most optimal for the causes that we're addressing. I believe that external pressures on nonprofit organizations are the #1 factor keeping them from their true potential. And these external pressures have 2 side effects: underfunding and a lack of long-term thinking and innovation. Now, this issue of underfunding comes from the expectation that charities should not utilize any of the donations for organizational growth. That we want to see every penny donated to the cause as soon as the event is over, instead of these organizations utilizing those funds to grow the capacity of how much they can really raise. The problems that charities are attacking are massive in scale and mostly unsolved. But as a society, we've decided to starve these organizations out of successful financial practices. And our views of little to no retention or reinvestment are not allowing these organizations to ensure their own success or growth. But when a charity fails or faces financial distress, I want to ask, who's the one that gets cut out? Who gets left out? I can tell you it's not the board, and it's not the founder, and it's not the donor, so who does that leave? The beneficiaries. It's the ones who receive the support from the organization to take the largest hit when a charity closes its doors from running out of money. Now, according to a 2018 study on the nonprofit sector in the U.S., 50% of organizations have 1 month or less of operating reserves. How can we expect an organization to scale up or increase its effectiveness with such little reserve capital? And we experience this directly with Jam for Cam. It's really been a goal of ours to seek long-term growth and look to the future and really be effective. And in order to do this, we knew we needed to make specific investments in areas that could help us get there. And so we carried over $5,000 from our first event in order to jumpstart our planning process in our second year. And after spending that money and making those investments, it was clear to us that that $5,000 was nowhere near close to what we needed to really see the growth that we were looking for. And so it leaves us with the only option every year of having to re-raise a majority of the funds required to pay for new costs, which directly slows our growth. Now this brings me to my second point. In our sector, there's a serious lack of long-term thinking and innovation. Charities are forced to operate under an efficiency-maximizing approach, which we all believe is the most moral option. But this belief is restricting the potential for long-term effectiveness. And effectiveness is really the most important metric that we should be observing, not their financial efficiency. For example, if Jam4Cam spends more money on advertising next year, then our overhead goes up, and so our overall costs go up and our financial efficiency goes down. But our reach has increased, and now the amount of people that get our message goes up. And those are potential people who may need to hear that message. And those are potential lives that we could save. Secondly, there's no incentive for innovation in a sector that criticizes risk-taking or anything above mediocre compensation. When we prohibit failure, we kill innovation. Technological capability and innovation in the nonprofit sector is light years behind the for-profit sector. And this is because charities are too afraid to make any investments in those areas because they're worried that donors might get scared away when they spend any money in that way. But the reality is, online giving in the U.S. is growing and outpacing overall giving. But most of these small nonprofits are unable to make any investment leap to get any cut of this increase. So how do we solve these external pressures? First, I want to propose the most simple solution, and that's to change the way that we perceive a donation. A donation to charity should not be seen as a vehicle used to reach the cause. A donation to charity should be seen as an investment in that organization's people, mission, and objectives. When we see this donation as a vehicle, this is where we get the perception that the charity should not utilize any of those funds for their own growth. And when we change these simple perceptions to a more productive approach, we stop providing short-term aid to long-term issues. Secondly, we need to encourage innovation. We need leaders to think larger than the issue itself and take risks. This is how we solve causes that we're all passionate about. And we need to let these organizations that we may volunteer for, or sit on the board for, or even run know that growth and effectiveness is the best route to solution creation, not just keeping your overhead low. So invest in charities with big goals and creative leaders and those who seek to be effective with their mission. And in about 3 months, we're going to begin the planning process for our third Jam4Cam. And I hope to see all of you there, but I mostly hope to be getting texts and emails and calls asking how our team can make an impact with your new investment and how our new approach and our new charitable investment perception will truly change the world for the better. Thank you.